I'm Chris Chatfield, and today I'm going to show you how to take data from your ERP system and create objects on your Exchange server, specifically things like calendar entries within a user's Outlook folder through the Exchange Web Services. I'm going to use the create item method. This method allows us to create calendar entries, contact items, tasks, emails and meeting requests in users' Outlook folders. I already have a connector set up through the Web Services Connector tool to my Exchange server, and I require some documentation for that API. Through Outlook MSDN, Microsoft MSDN, I've identified the create item operation. Through this documentation, I can get a considerable amount of information regarding the specific item I wish to create, which comes in the form of XML and SOAP. Here, it identifies the elements that need to be mapped. Take, for example, the distinguished folder ID needs to be a type calendar. I can set up subjects, text within the body, and a start and end time for that particular calendar entry. So this forms a source of documentation which helps me create the task. I then go into TaskCentre. I create a task. At the moment, I have a database query against my ERP system, which is looking at service jobs that require attention. I have a problem description for some IT equipment. I have a number of different email addresses. Here, if you wish to take note, I have 4 service items for Penfold and 2 service items for the administrator. I have a start and end time for these activities and a location. And this will form the data that I now feed in to the Web Services Connector tool. I consume that record set. I identify the connector that I wish to use. I call up the method create item. The system will now prompt me to control the manner in which the schema is produced. I have 2 options here. I can either look at the specific elements and pick the ones that I require. I may decide here just to include the calendar item schema. Or, alternatively, I could click Resolve All, which brings in an opportunity to map any one of the items that I mentioned earlier, maybe tasks, contacts, calendar items, meeting requests, etc. I open the Mapping tab. I'm now in the TaskCentre DTL tool. Over to the left, you can see my record source. Over to the right, you can see my schema that identifies the objects I can map to within this Exchange web service. I mentioned to you that through the API documentation, I require a mapping to the distinguished folder ID called calendar. So I will take that entry now and map that into my DTL tool. I'm going to use the functions list and use a fixed dynamic data. I go to my distinguished folder ID, map it across, open it, and give it a value of calendar. I need to identify whose calendar I wish to write these entries into. You may recall I showed you 2 different email addresses from my record set. I map that by dragging and dropping. I'm then interested in the individual elements of the calendar type. Here you can see I resolved the entire schema. I have the message type for emails. I have the calendar item type. I have a contact type and various others. I'm going to map to the calendar type. So I scroll down through the individual elements to find out where I need to map to. Okay, we can now see a web service section running, making the web service call. And the task is now complete. So if we go across now to those specific Outlook folders. Okay, first of all, I'm going into the administrator's mailbox, into the calendar items. And here we can see our new activities. There we go. Okay, so a demonstration then of records coming from an ERP system via a record set and being mapped onto a web service, an Exchange web service, and producing calendar items in a specific user's folder in order for them to carry out some service jobs. And then in fact, if I go into the other calendar, we should see evidence then of other entries in a different user's folder. There we go. It's the ones for Penfold. And that concludes my demonstration on Orbis TaskCentre web services going into Exchange Server 2010. And equally, what we've done here would apply to Exchange 2007. Thank you for listening.